Hello. Welcome back to the channel, and this is a channel where we give you reviews, playthroughs, unboxings. We generally like to talk a load of bollocks about tabletop gaming in general. And in this video, we're going to be talking about our top 10 games that I thought were going to end up making my knob look like that, when instead they ended up making my knob look like that. So remember, if you know it, then please consider subscribing to this channel, hit the like button and all that YouTube bullshit. We'll see you after this. Bollocks. So number 10 on the list of games that only gave me a semi and not a full-blown hard-on is Hero Quest, right? We played this when it first came out in 1989, and I've only got like hazy memories of this one, but I remember it being a poor man's version of Dungeons and Dragons and all of those old Games Workshop games that were released in the like mid-80s sort of thing, yeah? A mate of mine who lived just over the road from where I live now, he had a copy of HeroScape, and we used to play it, and I remember lecturing him about how much better AD&D was to this, but they didn't listen and they wanted to play with their little toys instead. But I managed to bury those memories, and before this reprint was announced, before everyone started creaming themselves with anticipation, I seem to think that I had better experiences with Hero Quest than I actually did. And it wasn't until I picked this up from a bargain bucket that the memories of all the pain and suffering that had amassed during my childhood came back to me, prompting me to go and see a professional psychiatrist. This game is basically just a load of random bullshit, right? One player is going to be the overlord type character, one player is going to be the heroes, the overlord's going to try and kill the heroes, and the heroes are going to try and make it to the end of the quest. It's a roll and move game, which out the gate is a pile of shit, and you're going to be just rolling dice against stats, hoping that your character doesn't get beaten up by a bunch of drunken orcs, right? So yeah, HeroScape was shit then, and funnily enough, it turned out to be shit now. So number 2 on the list of top 10 games that failed to give me a raging boner is War of the Ring 2nd edition. I'd put off picking this game up for donkey's years, yeah, mainly because either A, it was out of print, or B, it was really expensive, right? But one day I woke up and I was just perusing around the internet on all of those 2-bob board gaming retailers, and I found a damaged copy of War of the Ring for literally fuck all. So I thought, what have I got to lose? I'll pick it up and have a go. I mean, damaged wasn't the word. It looked as if it had been rescued from a Gazan hospital. And what with all the hype around this game, you know, basically the whole of the board gaming industry was praising this game as if it was fashioned by the Messiah himself. And when I played it, it was fine. Okay, it's got a little bit of hidden movement. There's a lot of die rolling, yeah, and it's got some really nice card play. But the fact that the board gets really messy, you're trying to cram 20 units into the space the size of Britney Spears' anus, meant that I just ended up losing my fucking mind. It was a bore fest. It was a slog, right? And all the people that I played this with since have said the same thing, that on paper it looks the dog's bollocks, doesn't it? It's like Lord of the Rings, the board game, yeah? But in practice, it's slow. It's a meandering, unintelligible mess of a game, and I was sorely disappointed. So number 8 on the list of games that gave me brewer's droop after I had pulled the trigger is 11 by Portal Games. I saw an ad for this on GameFound. Not that I use crowdfunding platforms that much these days, but I saw an advert for it and I thought, fuck me, this is going to be like Football Manager, or if you're as old as me, Championship Manager, the board game. I thought that the way that this was presented, this was going to let you play a full season of games against 3 other players. I didn't back it on GameFound, right, but I did pick it up after it was released, only to find that it was a fucking bog standard Euro economic game dressed up to make you think that it was a football management experience. This is like the Plenty of Fish of board games, right? You see the picture on the website, only to find that it is a Pat Butcher style munter that has got your email address. This game's main foible is the fact that it comes down to random die rolls. There's a portion in this game after the match where your players can get injured just because you roll badly, and that is fucking unforgivable. Portal Games, what has happened to you? I remember years ago when you were producing games like Stronghold, when you were producing Robinson Crusoe, Pret-a-Porter, and now all you've got is delayed Kickstarter bullshit and first Martian toilet paper. So yeah, I'm getting a little bit angry about this one, so let's move on, right? So number 7 on the list of our top 10 games that didn't quite fill my pants with flesh is Duel of Ages 2. I'm going to blame Tom Vassell for this. I'm sure Tom Vassell is a very nice guy, but I was watching video upon video upon video while I was going through my board gaming addiction phase about 6 years ago, saying how good this game was, saying how that you can take on the role of all these different characters, run around a map and kill each other, right? I thought this was going to be like a first-person shooter type thing, right? Like a sort of a Call of Duty-esque type game where you can have these mad battles with different weapons and different characters and all this sort of stuff. When we actually played it, it turned out that it was basically a DIY job with some really, really complicated and convoluted rules, yeah? I didn't have the fucking clue what was going on. There's some things in this game where you have to read the rulebook 6,000 times. In fact, you have to go online and pass a language course just to interpret the fucking basic rules that this fucker put in a book. I'm not saying Duel of Ages is a bad game, but it's like a cook has come up with this recipe for this fucking awesome cake, yeah, and they just didn't know when to stop. They ended up putting fucking curry powder in there or like fish guts, thinking that the more stuff they added in, the better it was going to taste, and it ended up tasting like shark feces. So yeah, Duel of Ages 2, it's not for the faint-hearted. I played this loads when I first got it, hoping that it would reveal itself, but it turned out to be a complete and utter fucking waste of time. So number 6 on this list of games that I thought was going to turn me into John Holmes and it turned me into Pee Wee Herman is Star Wars Rebellion. Alright, okay, like, shut the fuck up, yeah? I'm not saying Star Wars Rebellion is a shit game. It's not. I actually enjoy it quite a lot. But there's a few things bother me about it, right? The first is that it's only 2 players. And it's just sort of like a back and forth thing. So I'm going to move my ships here. You're going to move your ships there. Where's your fucking base? I don't know where it is. Is it here? No. Is it there? No. Is it here? No. Fucking hell. And the second thing is that it just turns out to be just a massive plastic shit on a board, right? I do like the fact that it feels like you are taking on the role of the original Star Wars characters before Star Wars went to rat shit. I like the fact that I can stroke Chewbacca's furry bollocks. I like the fact I'm waking up next to Grand Moff Tarkin, right? Again, this was another game that made me feel like I was fucking at work, yeah? It felt like I was wading through fucking quicksand. If you're the Imperial player, you're just going to be sort of trying to build up your fleet and overwhelming the board. And if you're the Rebel player, it feels like you're walking around your fucking high street with no fucking pants on. You've literally got nothing to play with. And it's just pot luck as to whether the Imperial player is going to find you. And invariably, they do, right? So yeah, I'm not saying Star Wars Rebellion is a bad game. I do enjoy it on occasion, but it's one of those games where I thought it was going to be Usain Bolt and it ended up being Oscar Pistorius without his legs on. So number 5 on this list of games that made me think that my ballsack was going to swell up and it ended up going inside my pelvis is Fortune and Glory. Do you remember the days when Flying Frog Games were at their pinnacle, when they produced these sort of cinematic experiences with the sort of real life artwork? Games like Touch of Evil or The Last Night on Earth, right? We picked up Fortune and Glory thinking it was going to be this big fuck off Indiana Jones movie in a box here. And I suppose in a sense it was, for all the wrong reasons. First of all, the sheer size of the game didn't mean anything. The ball was so big that there was loads and loads of empty spaces. And it played up to, I think it was like 8 players or something stupid like that. Yeah, 8 players. And there was no fucking way that you were going to be able to get this done in even a month and a half if you played with 8 fucking players, yeah, because probably 7 of those would die of starvation or just sheer frustration after like 3 days or maybe 3.5 days. If you add to this the fact the rule book may as well have been written in fucking Swahili. It's got like an open rule book, so it's been added to over the years and it's had to be edited by fans, and that is not a good look, is it? And at the end of the day, it's another one of those random dive fest fuck ups. Oh, you want to do this? Roll a die, check it against the stat. Oh, you want to do that? Yeah, roll a fucking die and check it against the stat. It's a stat check-in fuck fest. Mate, if I was a businessman, I'd be calling this the Accountant's Orgy, the board game. I mean, they couldn't even get the fucking Fortune and Glory the right way around, because Glory is actually money and Fortune is the like luck bullshit, yeah? What a bunch of fucking... So yeah, this is one of them games they tried to make so big, it actually collapsed in on itself and created sort of like a mini black hole that actually made Stephen Hawking have his first wank in 6 years. So number 4 on the list of games that I thought were going to burst through my pants and in the end shriveled up into a couple of acorns is Merchants and Marauders. Yeah, this is one of those legendary games that was sort of like out of print for what seemed like ages, and it came back into print and I snapped it up thinking it was going to be the dog's bollocks. Again, I'm not saying that Merchants and Marauders is a bad game. I really do enjoy it on occasion, right? But hey, it's fucking long. Yeah, it's longer than ZZ Top's fucking beard. And the major gripe with this is that the main action, the port action, takes so long that you could probably live 3 lives before your turn comes around again. You could actually sort of wave to Matthew McConaughey in an alternative universe.
Sitting here listening to this instead of me, which has been a good thing.
Before somebody completes all these steps of the port action, right? Game was improved with the Seas of Glory expansion, and we had to wait another fucking 5 years before that was reprinted, before we could pick it up. As you can see, I've aged terribly in between the 5 years since I first picked up the base game and then picked up the expansion. Whilst it rectified the game somewhat, it didn't do anything for my fucking complexion, did it? So yeah, Merchants and Marauders, I thought this was going to be Pirates of the Caribbean, the board game, and it ended up being Blackbeard, the porno. So number 3 on the list of games that I thought were going to launch by Love Polaris, but ended up being an indoor firework, is Sleeping Gods. This is one of those Ryan Lockett games. It's a cooperative, I suppose you could say, pirate-themed exploration game that uses a book as the central board, and you're going to be running around this world in a boat, fulfilling missions, having a few fights and all that sort of shit, right? The game looked absolutely fantastic. People have been wanking themselves off about Sleeping Gods, so I thought, well, it's Christmas, I'll get my wife to waste her money on it so that I don't have to. And she did. How stupid is she? No, I love you really. Yeah, like I said, the game looked absolutely stunning. It's immersive, right? You actually do feel like you're in a rowing boat facing backwards and rowing into a fucking rock. But the problem with this game is it's so fucking random. There's just no way to tell whether you've got the resources to pass all of the tests in the game, right? So it's a case of style over fucking substance, yeah? It's a post-modernist nightmare. And I haven't got rid of it yet. It's still there. It's still lurking under my bed like a fucking goblin. I just can't bring myself to sell it because I'm convinced that inside of this box at some point there's going to be a game worth playing, right? But I'm not there yet. I'm still trying to work up courage, trying to fish it out from the mouldy, damp portion of my shelf down there underneath the Starfarers of Catan. So all of you lot who've just picked up the latest iteration of this from their Kickstarter backers, have fun flogging it on the board game trading chat Facebook group, yeah? Even though it's still in shrink, you fucking idiots. So number 2 on this list, games that should have made my penis stand on end, but instead made it flop like a high jumper on PEDs, is Nemesis. This is another one of them games that I bought on the strength of hearsay from my colleagues on the internet. They told me it was going to be Aliens, the board game, in a box, even though there's a billion and one other Alien board games, right? So we picked it up, thinking, well, it's not totally cooperative, so that means we can play it and stab each other in the back, right? And up to a point, it worked. Running around this spaceship, trying to complete your own objective, trying to fend off these aliens, not knowing where they're going to come from. And then somebody fucking died after half an hour. And they sat out the rest of the fucking game, yeah? And then what happened? Another 20 minutes later, another person fucking died. And they had to sit on the fucking naughty step with the person that had died 20 minutes earlier. And then I had to put up with all of this bullshit on YouTube of people saying, well, there's a variant in the rulebook that lets you become an alien, or, well, it's never happened in our game. Most of the time, we run around with our fucking pants down and we never get killed. Well, whoopee fucking do for you, because whenever I play this game, it always seems that some fucking poor bastard gets murdered within the first hour and then they end up sitting on their Todd doing fuck all. Is Nemesis a bad game? No, I actually enjoy it quite a bit. Is it a flawed game? Yes, it is. It's one of them games, whenever I play it, I go into it thinking it's going to be different this time. It's going to be different this time. Makes me feel like one of those people that's been married more than twice, but it always ends up going the same way. You always end up feeling fucking miserable. So number 1 on the list of our top 10 games that I thought were going to give me a boner, but they ended up making me feel like I just looked at some saggy flaps, is Gloom Haven. Right, this was meant to be a game-changing board game. It was meant to be the biggest sea change in board games that had been seen since Dungeons and Dragons was created by a sweaty cocaine addict in Geneva, USA. So we backed it on Kickstarter years ago for the princely sum of about 70 quid, and it turned up and I managed to trawl through the rules without without using any kind of painkillers. And we set up our first game, right? Easy enough. Just punch out the boards, put a few tiles together, have a 1-level dungeon, beat up a few geezers, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and again, and again, and a fucking again, and again, and again. And then I found out that I've got to pack it all away. And as you progress through the levels, you've got to rummage through this huge box of tiles looking for the correct configuration in the book. And after a while, I ran out of patience and I thought, I've got to have better things to do in my life than just feel like I'm playing Groundhog Day in a dank, sweaty dungeon. So yeah, Gloom Haven, did it change the face of board games? Yeah, of course it did. It took what games like Kingdom Death Monster had started and it sort of ran away with the ball. And now we're in the situation where all these other batshit crazy publishers are trying to take the ball off of Gloom Haven, make something that's bigger and more monstrous and more scary and more frightening than Gloom Haven. Even the Gloom Haven publisher is trying to do that himself. He's trying to outdo himself with the sequel like Frosthaven. I mean, you just spent 100 fucking hours playing Gloom Haven. Why the fuck would you want to spend another 100 hours doing the same fucking thing? So yet we still haven't finished Gloom Haven. Okay, that maybe that disqualifies me from an opinion, but I don't give a flying fuck. I'm going to say what the fuck I want to say. And Gloom Haven was probably the biggest disappointment that I've ever experienced in board gaming. Shut the fuck up. So you go, that is the top 10 games that I thought were going to give me a stonking, raging hard on, but they ended up making me feel like my trouser snake was in fact a trouser worm. So remember, if you're new here, then please consider subscribing to this channel with a like button and all that YouTube bullshit. See you next time.